hope you're having a wonderful day. Welcome to Beyond the Pages podcast. I'm your host, Vanessa. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome our special guest, Daniel.
Thanks for having me, Vanessa. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you for joining us. Today, we will be using the STEEL method: speech, thoughts, effects on others, actions, and looks to compare two compelling characters. Roger from Langston Hughes' Thank You Ma'am, and Jack from Ken Liu's The Paper Menagerie, to see how authors develop their protagonists, illuminating the complexities of human behaviors and relationships.
That sounds interesting.
I'm glad you think so. We'll also be exploring these stories through different literary theories to gain a deeper understanding on these stories.
Great. As we know, character development is a cornerstone of literature. Please give a little bit of context on the two short stories we will be comparing so we can get started.
In Langston Hughes' Thank You Ma'am, a young boy, Roger, learns valuable lessons, compassion, and redemption through an encounter with Mrs. Jones. Ken Liu's The Paper Menagerie tells the story of Jack, a boy who grapples with his cultural identity and emotional distance from his mother in a biracial family.
It's fascinating how Roger and Jack face challenges related to their identities and relationships. While Roger is met with compassion, Jack is met with alienation, which drastically impacts how they grow and develop throughout their short stories.
Exactly. Let's start off with speech. In Thank You Ma'am, Roger's hesitant and reserved speech reflects his desperation to be understood throughout the short story. He simply answers Mrs. Jones' questions, and even at the end, he is unable to say much more than, "Thank you, ma'am."
That makes a lot of sense. From a psychoanalytical standpoint, his speech shows his internal conflict and the challenges he faces in expressing himself due to his upbringing.
On the other hand, with Jack in The Paper Menagerie, his speech is direct and quite hurtful with his words, especially towards his mother, evidenced by the repeated, "Speak English," from pages 32 to 33. Jack's harsh words reflect the privilege he had compared to his mother when they were the same age, with his mother scared for her life as the Cultural Revolution began.
We can understand this better through the post-colonial lens, illustrating the tension between assimilation and cultural identity, showing the internalized pressures he faces throughout the short story. It's interesting to note how both characters find it difficult to articulate their thoughts, but we can tell the circumstances they are under simply by how they speak.
Wow, that's very well put. Now let's move on to thoughts. At first, Roger just wants Mrs. Jones to let him go, but he soon realizes that he wants to earn Mrs. Jones' trust after she shows him compassion. We can see this on page 4 as Mrs. Jones is preparing dinner for them. He thinks he did not trust the woman not to trust him, and he did not want to be mistrusted now.
This certainly illustrates how relationships can change a person's perspective. From a reader respond theory angle, it prompts us to reflect on our own experiences with trust, particularly with a guardian or parental figure.
I was definitely examining the relationships I have with my family and even teachers who had a big impact on me as I was reading this short story. With Jack, I think his thoughts show how he struggles with accepting his heritage and identity. Starting from the neighbors and Mark visiting his home, he can feel that his differences as being Chinese aren't accepted, and he starts to repress this part of his identity by not wanting to speak Chinese with his mother and not wanting to eat Chinese food. He also thinks that on page 34, her accent and broken sentences embarrass me, while he talks about his mother attempting to speak English.
I think these thoughts stem from his desire to fit in. It really taps into the concept of the melting pot in America, where immigrants often feel pressure to shed their own identities in favor of the unified American identity, which I do feel is constantly pushed onto his mother and projected onto Jack.
Definitely. And while Jack's mother tries to assimilate, she held onto the Chinese language and the importance of traditional celebrations like Qingming, which was how Jack got reconnected with his roots at the end of the short story.
It's interesting how each character's thoughts are shaped by the pressures surrounding them. For Roger, it is the compassion from Mrs. Jones that makes him want to gain her trust, while with Jack, it is the need to be accepted by the Americans around him.
What a perfect segue into examining how these protagonists affect others. Roger initially attempts to steal from Mrs. Jones, but she turns this encounter into a pivotal moment for his growth. She tells him, "I was young once, and I wanted things I could not get," on page 4. Roger's interaction with Mrs. Jones allowed her to lend him a helping hand, which is probably something she would have wanted when she was his age, which is why she wants to be able to set him on the right path in life.
That's a great moment of empathy from Mrs. Jones. It's a reminder of how our own experiences can guide us to help others, especially those who remind us of ourselves.
Precisely. Meanwhile, with Jack, his rejection of his heritage deeply wounds his mother. In the letter she writes to him, she pens, "But can you understand how it felt when you stopped talking to me and won't let me talk to you in Chinese? I felt like I was losing everything all over again," on page 42.
This encapsulates the emotional burden she carries. From a feminist perspective, it highlights the deep maternal bond and the emotional labor mothers often experience in familial relationships. Both protagonists hurt others, while Mrs. Jones gets through to Roger quite quickly, actually. It isn't until after reading the letter does Jack understand the pain he has caused his mother. Let's move on to actions. Vanessa, can you shed some light on Roger?
Sure thing. Roger transforms from someone who steals, and while under the influence of Mrs. Jones, to asking if he could help buy groceries, signifying his desire to change.
Definitely, but with Jack, I think things become a bit nuanced.
Yes, in the paper Menagerie, the origami tiger symbolizes Jack's relationship with his mother. His act of hiding the origami animals show how he is rejecting his culture and severing the connection between his American and Chinese heritages. After reading his mother's letter with help from a Chinese tourist, he asks for assistance in writing the Chinese character, I, which means love.
That's such a poignant connection. I think a beautiful thing about Chinese characters is how they are often made up with existing words. The character I contains the notion of heart, which resonates with his mother's insistence on expressing emotions from the heart.
Exactly. This beautifully connects to her earlier words on page 33 when she says, "If I say love, I feel it here," pointing to her lips. "And if I say I feel it here," placing her hand over her heart.
And that's a powerful image. It speaks to the post-colonial themes, showing the severed connections between his dual heritages, and demonstrates the emotional depth within the relationship. Jack ultimately regrets his actions and longs for reconnection.
Finally, let's consider their looks. Roger is described as frail and willow-wild on page 2, evoking sympathy and highlighting his socioeconomic struggles.
And Jack's biracial identity complicates his experiences as he grapples with features that identify him as Chinese. On page 32, he even asks his father, "Do I have a chink face?" which emphasizes the pressure that can be placed on racial identity.
Both characters' appearances is a manifestation of their internal conflicts. Roger's battle with poverty and Jack's struggle with cultural identity.
Comparing Roger and Jack through the Steele method shows how Hughes and Liu craft characters navigating their identities through the lens of compassion and alienation.
Roger's journey reflects the transformative power of empathy, while Jack's narrative serves as a reminder of the complexities of cultural identity.
Ultimately, both stories underscore the importance of character development in revealing profound truths about human behavior and the experiences that shape our connections with each other.
Thank you for joining me on this comparative character analysis.
It was my pleasure.
Stay tuned for the next episode, where we'll once again look beyond the pages. Until next time, I am your host Vanessa, and keep exploring the world of literature.